Welcome to another video about Battlegroup Kursk. I haven't done one in a while because I covered pretty much just, the basics of basics that you could get out of the game. But I did have a request to cover a concept called battle rating, which I do mention in some of the other videos, but never really talked about on its own. So today, we'll talk a little bit about battle rating. So inside the book, on page 43 of the rule book, it has a few pages that talk about the battle rating system. What's nice is the battle rating system is not a complicated concept, so really it only covers a couple of pages. But what is it though? Well, from the book, I'll just read it. It explains it a lot better than I do. So it says, as well as the effect of the fighting on individual units' morale, there is also an attrition on the battle group's overall effectiveness and the higher commander's willingness to press on for victory. This is represented by the battle rating system. So every battle group that's participating in the fight, they get an overall battle rating number. And as you play and fight and suffer casualties and certain effects that happen in the game, that tears away at your overall battle rating. And when you equal or surpass your battle rating number, your side retreats from the battle. In other words, that higher commanding authority says we've suffered too much, let's pull out. So, your individual tanks have morale, your groups of men have morale, and it's possible for those sides to retreat if they suffer, casualties. But the overall team, they have their own morale, if you will, and that's the battle rating system. So you could lose several units of individual men and your team keeps fighting, but once you've suffered enough casualties, your overall side will leave. So real simple. So briefly, we'll just cover some of the situations that cover your loss of battle rating. So for example, units destroyed, so every time you lose like a squad or a vehicle, a rally attempt, when you rally in the game, it's very critical for you to think about it, because when you rally, you have to draw one of those battle rating markers. So, it's tough because if you lose all your units to being destroyed or pinned, you lose the fight. So you have to kind of balance, do I want to wait till I have several units pinned? Because the way you work the unpinning is you roll a die 6, and that's how many units you get to unpin. So if you only have one pinned unit, you may not want to draw that battle rating marker. But if you had 2 or 3 units pinned, then that might be a time to draw a battle rating marker to try and get those units unpinned. First time you're under air attack, first time you're under a flamethrower attack, if your senior officer is destroyed, if you're out scouted, like at the beginning of the game, scout units are important. The team that has the most scout points, if you will, the loser, if you will, who has the fewest scout units on the board, they have to draw a battle rating, because that means the other opponent has kind of put together a better battle plan of the situation, so they're more likely to win. Enemy captures an objective, and it goes on to talk about some of these more in depth as far as what it takes to capture an objective. But if your opponent captures an objective, then you have to draw a battle rating card. Tactical coordination, which is kind of like rallying in the middle of your turn, you get to draw a battle rating marker. So like if you really needed that tank unpinned, you could, but then you got to draw a battle rating marker. And then there's a couple pages that talk about conditions of losing the game and why you might want to think about holding off on drawing that battle rating marker, or take it to get your units unpinned. One thing the book does have though, let me show you here. If you go to the very back of the book, it does have a page of battle rating counters that you can cut out, or nowadays on the internet you can go print them out, cut them out, and then you have them. And then if you use these, you put them in like a cup or something, you draw it at random, and you don't show your opponent what you draw, because on some of the cards they have special things like an air attack, beyond the call of duty, battle confusion, ammunition's low, a mine strike, or a breakdown, just a random effect. So you could either be drawing cards that take you closer to the end of the game, or you might draw something that gives you a little, quick little perk against your opponent. So draw them, keep your numbers secret, and when you hit your total, that's the end of the game. So next we're going to take a look at how do we determine our starting battle rating, and then how do we decide when we've hit enough. Alright, now we know a little bit about the battle rating and why it's important to your overall battle group. How do you get that number? Now, the number is decided purely by the units that you purchase when creating your battle group. Some units have a very high battle rating number that they give you. Some have none. And there's no mathematical formula as to, this much points equals this much battle rating. So all you have to do really is kind of look at the units. Like for example, here's a forward headquarters underneath the mechanized corps. It's 22 points to buy, but it gives you a battle rating of 3. And then if you go down, like for example, here's a wire team. It's 7 points, but 0 battle rating. Or here's a forward signal unit, 18 points, and it's only 1 battle rating point. So there will be some units in here that have a high battle rating payoff. Just see if I can find one real quick here. Something cheap that has a high battle rating. Most of the time you're going to get like 1 or 2 points unless you buy something. Well, like I thought there was some here. It's a forward aid post, for example. It's 20 points, but gives you 5 battle rating towards the side of your overall battle rating for your battle group. So 20 points, whereas here the combat medic is 8 points, but has no battle rating. So some units can be worth quite a bit. Or like here, okay, here's a good example. People ask about a jeep versus a forward aid post. The ambulance is 14 points, but 2 battle rating, whereas a forward aid post is 20 points, 5 battle rating. So they both have similar functions, but a lot different as far as value towards the battle rating. You just have to decide how much points do you want to spend on things that will pad your battle rating versus, just having a lot of units. But let's take a look at one that's real easy to follow here. If you go to page 145, there is a T-34 tank company, 350 points, and it gives you a 30 battle rating. And it consists of a total of 10 vehicles, 1 officer, and just 9 regular tanks. So let's just leave that like that. So now that I have, let's say that's what I bought was a tank company, and I have my 30 points, and that's what I'm going to spend for my entire battle. So the way this works is, let's say I lost a tank, I would have to draw one of those counters. Now what I have here, I actually have some cards. Now I printed these off of Board Game Geek. If you go to the Battlegroup Kursk section of the Board Game Geek, there's a guy named Fire Pigeon who put these together. So I just printed the cards out on some like cardboard stock, stuck them in these plastic cover protectors, and it's pretty much all of those little counters but in a card. So shuffle them up. So let's say I'm at the start of my game. I'm a Russian tank company. I have 30 points of battle rating. The cards I'm going to put off to the side, kind of like a common pool. Both sides draw from that one common pool, so you don't have to have like 2 sets of cards. So let's say I lose my first tank. I draw a card, 4. Now I wouldn't put it face up for my opponent to see. I'm going to, put that over here for me to keep track of. I'm just going to lay it out. So 4. So if I started with 30 points of battle rating for my tank company, lose 1 tank, 26, I basically have 26 points remaining. So, do it mathematically. However you and your opponent want to track it. Either you add up to 30 or start at 30 and count down to 0. Either way, once you run out of battle rating, you lose the match. And then I lose another vehicle. There's a 5. Now the distribution of points, there's very few 5s, there's very few 1s. Most common is the 3. So I didn't shuffle good. So if I was the Russian player, I'd be kind of concerned because I'm drawing very high for my losses here. Okay, there's a 2. and then I drew a confusion. So as you can see, you're either going to get lucky and you could draw a bunch of 2s and 1s, or be unlucky and draw a bunch of 4s and 5s, and that's going to bring you much closer to the end of the game. You know, basically I like it because it's just another form of morale. It's random. Either it'll keep the games, you know, from being like 2 or 3 hours long. If you want a long game, you know, then probably the battle rating system isn't going to work in your favor, but it helps limit it to a good couple hours. You know, you got 10 tanks to move around. If you had, you know, 10 tanks both sides, 30 battle rating each side, you can take a few losses before the game is over. But, you know, if this was a loss of a tank, maybe I drew that because I was unpinning a unit. I say I want to unpin another unit. I drew another 5. I mean, I'm getting close to 30. So I have to really be cautious of either A, you know, be more conservative with my units so I'm not losing them, or do I really want to unpin one tank? Do I want to wait until 2 or 3 tanks are pinned and then draw a card? But that's pretty much all the battle rating is. Just another form of morale that tracks the overall kind of morale for your battle group. Once you hit your battle rating for your battle group, higher command says, hey, we've taken enough losses, time to come on out. That's pretty much all it is. Just a numbers game at that point. Yeah, I have nothing really to add to it. But if you do want to see something else, just let me know, and I'll put a video up for it. Alright, thanks a lot.